Welcome back to my channel. Today we're playing My Hero One's Justice 2 and going to be talking about Season 7 of My Hero Academia now that it's over and we're just waiting for the final season to start. And honestly, I've been really happy with My Hero for the last two seasons. Even when it was in its quote-unquote low part, where a lot of people weren't very happy with it, I was still really enjoying a lot of what was happening with the series. So I never really fell out of love with it, but since Season 6 started, and I thought even when Season 7 started we were gonna have like a bit of a break, and we kind of did with the UA Trader arc. Like, that was the closest we kind of got to a break, but we literally started the season with Star and Stripe, which I was honestly so much more happy with how that turned out than I was expecting, because I heard so much disappointment about it, and that it was basically like on the level of like Squad Zero from the original Bleach manga, which was really disappointing. But I actually really liked what they did with her character, how it tied in with her being like part of the movie character. Also, these guys, I'm really glad they brought them back in Season 7. I was not expecting that. But yeah, I really love Star and Stripe and her whole thing, and her tie to the like America, and like her tie to not one for all for one. No, One for All. I was right. Into All Might. And I don't know, she was just a really cool character. Her power was really interesting. And that whole fight was really fun to watch. And it was not how I was expecting to start a season. Even though we did get teased with it at the end of Season 6, like with her pulling up on the fighter jets, I wasn't expecting it that, like, Episode 1. Because I feel like a lot of My Hero seasons start with, like, recap or stuff like that, where it's a bit slower. So we literally got tossed right into it, and like that was really awesome. And we got to see All for One kind of take some damage from her and lose some of his quirks and stuff, and just so much of that was so cool. And obviously it's not a huge part of the story, but I really liked how we're dealing with like the outside countries, because I wasn't even sure if they were really going to get mentioned like that. But the fact that like every other country was essentially trying to appease All for One and not actually like go to war with them, I found really interesting. And the fact that like most of the countries and everything didn't even want to give their support, at least from the higher ups. There was people like I forget what it is, he's like a general or probably higher than that, like Star and Stripes boss, and he looked like almost Admiral Akbar. That's what he reminded me of anyways. But I really like that guy as well. So getting that, and like having Star and Stripes like team, like the fighter jet guys, stick around and help out through the season later on. Like when they pull up and then Deku like swings across all of them to get up his momentum was really cool. Because I was wondering how he was going to get to the location, because he like starts flying, but he literally, in the episode before, he's complaining that if he had if he could build up centrifugal force, he'd be able to move even faster. And then the next episode, they line up all the jets, and he goes swinging across and gets sent to it. And I thought it was really cool linking up like Star and Stripes' goal and want for the world into Deku like that. It was obviously a very small part of the story, but it was really fun. And then the Trader plotline, which I would have enjoyed it even more if I didn't get spoiled for it. I got spoiled quite a long time ago, and like I was spoiled on Invisible Girl's design, and a lot of that stuff I would seen already. But I still really enjoyed what they did with that, and like having everyone together in the base and leaving to set out to their, like, I think it was called Tartarus? No, that might be wrong. I don't know, they made like a secondary base where they fought at, and I really liked that. And it being Yuga Aoyama actually made a lot of sense to me, because there was a lot of weird moments in the series where I like remember seeing him and I was like, I feel like that's really odd, or they like lingered on him in some weird shots or something like that. So that was actually a cool reveal, and him being quirkless and getting his quirk from All for One, I thought was a really cool story point. But I feel like what a lot of people talk about when they are talking about how great the season's been, it's been because we literally went almost right into the war arc. How many even episodes was the Trigger block? Maybe like 4? Maybe 3 actually? I don't know, it wasn't very long. And like Star and Stripe was only like 2 episodes or something like that. So like we moved through like the brief part of this season really fast. And the last season was literally like a war arc essentially, or like the start of one. So the fact that like we had a tiny break and then we're actually in the final war of the series is crazy. And now going into the final sagas, it's just absurd to me now because I wasn't really expecting us to move this quickly, because I knew like the manga was ending, but I thought there was way more story left. I didn't realize like how much, because I think like based off what I've heard, there's only like enough for 12 or like 13 episodes or something like that to finish off the story. And I'm just really excited because I've been very happy with this season, even though I definitely did have my nitpicks like about some of the CGI they used for the hands, and there was a couple other moments where the animation wasn't super great, but when they like worked their hardest and like for the peak moments they were like really good and super hype. And more than just animation or anything, I think the story has been really good, and I liked the ending for a lot of the League of Villains characters that we've got. We got Toga's, Dabi's ending, and then I don't know if his is fully done yet, but Spinner, the stuff with him, and like all those storylines build up in such an emotional final, I was not expecting. I didn't really think I was going to care as much for Toga's story, but the way they handled it was so amazing. And Dabi has been a character, and like the whole Todoroki family's been something I've been a fan of the whole series pretty much, so I was really excited with how they handled that and having an outcome be satisfying, because I feel like a lot of time was shown, and by the time you actually get to the end of the series, a lot of things that you've been waiting for to happen, or like the final outcomes of battles, are always super disappointing. So the fact that we had like 3 or 4 that were like super satisfying in one season was great. And like there was a lot of like cool build up, and like the reveal of Deku's other quirks was really awesome, and his fight with Shigaraki, especially like with that like quintuplet move he used, that looked really cool. And there's so much crazy shit, and like they did do like a sort of fake it with Dabi's death, or like him losing and then going back to fight his dad. But I think it was worth it because I liked how they ended it with like their whole family all together in one spot. I really liked that, and it was a really cool way to tie in their story together and kind of get not redemption for a lot of those characters, because even like Endeavor, I don't think he will get like 100% he's a good guy redemption. I imagine his family will still probably have their fair share of like, this dude is still kind of an asshole and was terrible to us, which I like. And I like that at least so far they haven't killed him off. I was really worried when he was going up with Dabi that they were going to kill him off, and I was like, I feel like that's would ruin Endeavor's character slightly, because I feel like he has to stay alive for him to get like real quote-unquote redemption or to like improve. I feel like a lot of the times when characters are so like bad or have so many like negative things in their lives, the series will try and like glorify them and then just kill them off because it's easier than actually trying to redeem them in a interesting or cool way. Like that was one of the things I recently watched Avatar, and I loved Zuko because he was an asshole and a prick, but he didn't just get like immediately killed off and like done a heroic deed and then it's just been over. You actually got to see his full redemption, him make even more mistakes, and then like get a real redemption arc. And that's one of the things I really liked about My Hero, is I feel like a lot of the consequences characters make are still addressed. Like with Toga and Shigaraki. And while the characters are treating them as characters with like good inside of them, or that have been screwed over by the system or stuff, they're not just glossing over the fact that they are horrible people and have to be brought to justice. And like, well, it is a little sad that I imagine that like, 'cause it seems like anyways Toga's dying, Dabi's dying, so a lot of the League of Villain members are dying, but I like that they're getting acknowledgement, but they're also not just getting a free pass for the shitty things that they've done in their lives, because realistically, you never really should. Even if you have reasons for it, when you're, like, openly hurting people and causing that much mayhem and destruction, that you really have no option to just be a good person anymore. You're kind of stuck with that. So I like that they're acknowledging that they're not fully just bad people, or there's reasons for why they're like that. They're still actually fighting them and bringing them to justice, because I feel like a lot of times with, like, superhero stories, the main characters get that, like, kind of ideology that the characters are, like, good, and then they become too much of, like, a Boy Scout, and then aren't willing to actually take action against those characters. So I'm glad that, like, Deku and Ochaku are still making a conscious choice to battle them, even though they are having conflicting feelings with themselves. And I like how Toga came to, like, an understanding about herself and, like, who she was. And then, like, yeah, she couldn't just be locked up forever and live her life like that, because that's not who she was. But she also got some comforting and someone actually looking at who she was as a person before she actually gave her life. So I do think it's a little sad that they're, like Toga, for instance, kind of had to die for her story. I actually like how it turned out, and I like how she realized that her quirk could have been used to help people, especially if, like, her and Twice were working together. They could literally just make clones and have infinite, like, blood for transfusions and stuff like that. But yeah, just overall, I've been really happy with a lot of these stories, how they're turning out, and, like, for a war arc, I feel like that's a really hard thing to do. And, like, even Bleach, a series I love a lot, like, the war arc and the manga was not the best, it was very rushed, but, like, the anime is doing a much better justice to it now, and, like, I was worried about My Heroes, because I heard a lot of complaints about it, but I've been really loving it. And I also, My Hero is a weird series because I feel like I hear so much hate about it, and then I actually, like, watched it for the first time and I, like, loved it. And, like, I feel like so many of the people that have problems with My Hero, half of it's based off, like, the fan base and not the actual show, which is so sad to me because it's such a good show, and, like, there's so many, like, good character moments, and, like, they give a lot of side characters a lot of good moments, but people don't care because it won't be, like, some ginormous fight or, like, the biggest thing ever. But, like, if you compare it to other series, I feel like they do the side characters very well. And, like, sometimes they may only get, like, a scene or, like, an episode or here and there, but I don't think every side character in a show needs to be, like, the most fully in-depth thing ever. But, like, if you compare, like, Shoji, like, what we got in this season with Spinner, that was amazing, and he was a character that was essentially just a background character and wasn't super important, which I think is fine with a big series where, like, the class is, like, a big group. I don't think everyone needs to have, like, super hype 1v1 moments and stuff, but then when you do get to see a character that's been in the background, and then something that, like, the Heteromer stuff was in the background of this series from, like, I think season 1 it was mentioned, or, like, stuff about them being discriminated against, or even just by, like, audiences, like, and fan base would also discriminate against people like that. So getting to see that actually unfold in, like, a 1v1 conflict with Spinner and Shoji was really awesome. And then, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but the one who calls the like, bugs and animals and stuff, he also got a really, Anima, I think is his hero name. But he also got a pretty hype moment as well there, calling, like, the birds and getting his, like, power basically awakened, but, like, upgraded and getting his horns and stuff. And I think leading all or tying, like, all those story points together into that one conflict in the war arc is really important, because it didn't feel like some just random side useless story. It felt like something that was important in the world and something fans have been wanting to be explored. So the fact that we actually got that in this season, even though it only was, like, one episode, I don't think you need to dedicate an entire season to something like that, because it's not the main thing about the show, but it is something in the background of the lore. And I like that now that's been expanded on, and, like, he also used more of, like, the revolutionaries, like Redestro's people, And like I really like how a lot of these plot lines have came together to form one cohesive war arc. And I know some people still definitely have a lot of problems with My Hero, but I've just been so happy with so much of it, and I'm really excited to see the ending. I have gotten some spoilers and stuff, but for the most part, I'm really excited to see it, and a lot of the spoilers I have seen don't even seem like that awful to me. It just seems like whenever any shonen manga ends, it's the worst ending in existence, and then by the time it will get to the anime, it probably won't be considered nearly as bad. Like, it's still crazy to me, like, the Attack on Titan ending. Like, basically 2 lines of dialogue were, like, slightly altered, and it makes it appear that it's, like, slightly farther in the future. But, like, everything I got from reading the manga was what showed up in the anime, essentially. Like, what I got from my reading comprehension and, like, what I got when I was reading it was essentially what the anime promoted. And, like, I never had any problems when I read it for the first time, really. Like, there was maybe one weird dialogue choice, but, like, it wasn't that weird and I understood what the author was going for. So it's sad to see when, like, stuff like that just builds up. And then, like, some people, like, haven't watched My Hero since, like, season 3 or 4 or something like that, and they still hate the series. So they'll just, like, continually build up off that hate. And it's just so sad for, like, every series that essentially is ending. Like, Jujutsu Kaisen ending is shit on so much. I imagine by the time we get to the actual anime, it's going to be so much more well received. And it's also so funny, because I feel like so many of the complaints I hear about one manga's ending will be all of the things people wanted from another manga's ending. And it's like, what do people actually want? I know it's always different people's opinions, and it's just hard when you see online, and it's like, you're seeing conflicting opinions, and like, both these endings are trash for 2 different reasons, but if you would have, like, it's just hard to listen to fan bases a lot of the time, and like, I read One Piece avidly, and I'm like caught up in the manga. So much is so different than what I thought, based off like how the fan base talked about the manga. When I actually got caught up, I was like, oh, so much is just so different, and then you'll like read the chapter discussion after a week, and it's like, do these people just hate read this manga? Like, I don't understand how, like, so much of the discussion is always like, this thing is the worst thing ever, this show is so much worse. And then you're actually, like, reading it and, like, enjoying the story, and it's like, this is, like, what the series has been all along. It's just always so funny to me listening to the community's reaction to new chapters or episodes or stuff, because it always feels so different from my actual thoughts. But going back to My Hero, Season 7 ended on a massive, massive cliffhanger, which I'm honestly okay for. I think it was actually a decent spot to leave a season. And it ended off with All For One versus Armored All Might, which is something I had not spoiled for me at all. Like, a lot of stuff I had spoiled when it like was first coming out in the manga. But this is something I didn't have spoiled at all, and I'm super excited for. I also like how they were slightly building it up in the background with, like, All Might using this car and its gadgets on it, and just like building up, like he got the suitcase the other episode, and then it built up to him like getting the suit, and they also tied it back to, I think it was the first movie, the one with what's her name? I can't remember her name, but I think his last name was Shield or something like that. David Shield, maybe, but his daughter. And it was really cool. I love that the My Hero movies actually tie into the story. That's something I feel like a lot of shonen or anime in general don't do very well, unless it was like actually just an adaptation of one of the arcs. It's always really cool to get like canon movies and stuff. And the way it tied into like the All Might getting his armor, and also like Star and Stripe appearing when he like saved that little girl as a kid in the one movie. I just love stuff like that, and it's really cool how it ties it all together. But the actual fight so far was so cool with All Might, because he's basically using like all of the quirks of all the kids in his suit, and it's just so cool. And it like feels like he actually has been a teacher now too, and he's like learned from all of his kids as well, and like using like the strategies he's been thinking about teaching them together. And I'm just so hyped for it, and I know this is probably going to be like the only fight with him, but I would really love for him to be put into like games or something like that, because I feel like it leads for really cool opportunities of a lot of combo attacks and like crazy attacks he could combine together with like all of his different quote-unquote quirks that he has built into his armor suit. It's just so cool, and I'm so happy with the direction My Hero's been going. And I know, like, I'm pretty sure anyways the ending is pretty controversial, so I'm excited to see that. I think it's next year the final season starts, so it'll be really cool to see how it actually turns out with all this story. But I'm so hyped for the start of next season, because we literally have Deku and Shigaraki going at it, and then we have All Might and All For One fighting. Well, All For One's also getting rewound in time. I'm really interested if they're actually going to let him fight like as a little kid, or even as a baby. I think that would be hilarious. But speaking of young All For One, he also got Levi/Law's voice actor. I was so hyped about that when I heard his voice, because like All For One's voice is super iconic. But I think he's, I also think it's like Blackbeard is the one who does it in One Piece. So now he has Blackbeard and Law's voice actor. And it feels like Law's voice actor is almost putting like a bit of a Blackbeard spin onto his voice to almost imitate like the All For One. I've been really happy with it. And I was unsure if they were actually going to change his voice when they showed him getting younger, so I was really happy when I actually heard that. Because occasionally stuff like that is weird in anime. Nothing will be weirder than I recently watched the One Piece Red movie, and like it was already weird that as a kid it was still the same singer singing as a kid and as an adult. But if you watch in the English dub, which is what my friend watched, so I recently watched it in that version, all of this music is still in Japanese, but also the kid is singing as an adult in Japanese. So it goes from a little kid talking in English to an adult singing in Japanese, and it is like so jarring. I was laughing my ass off while I was watching that, but yeah, so I was happy that they actually changed All For One's voice actor and didn't just have him with the same voice. Even though there is something to say about him not having that same voice anymore, because it's so iconic, that I do hope we get to see it in like Shigaraki's body, and whenever they do like stuff in the mind or anything, I do hope they still use that voice and not the younger one. Because as much as I do love like that voice actor who does the younger voice for All For One, I still do think that the original voice actor is more fitting for the actual character, and the way he's talks is so awesome. He's like so enjoyable. He's just one of those voice actors that are roles that is so like just enjoyable to listen to, pretty much no matter what. I also am getting bodied here by Endeavor in the background. Also, speaking of bodied, Endeavor's currently missing a chunk of his side. He tore off one of his arms. He's just struggling a bit. But like when he tore off his arm, that moment was so hyped to me. And like when he formed a fiery arm, that was super hype. I'm always a big fan of that motif of doing like ice arms or like firearms or stuff like that when you lose a limb, which is something we saw somewhat recently in One Piece. Actually, we finally seen Aokiji's leg, which is something they hadn't shown until except in the one movie, which is crazy to think about. It took so many like years after that movie came out to even see that in canon. That's one of the things I don't like, that kind of is, there's some things that are canon about One Piece movies, but the whole things aren't. That's why I love that the My Hero ones are fully canon. I'm also interested to know if like where the fourth movie takes place, if it's like before the war arc starts or if it's after. Because I don't really know like the consequences of a lot of the story in the manga, so I don't know. I also don't know if the movie comes out after or before that season. I haven't really been paying attention, because generally for anime movies I have to end up waiting until they come out in DVD so I can watch them anyways, and that takes a couple months. Also, Destroyed Endeavor in the background there with the boys. I also love that they added in the like Dark Deku or Vigilante Deku outfit into this game. I'd really love it if they added some more, or made a new game. I would really like that, because right now the newest game we have is the Battle Royale one, which is a fine game. It's just not really my type of game, so I don't play it nearly as much. But it was playing this game too and getting back into the combat and stuff. But I think that'll be pretty much it for the season. Just wanted to talk about Season 7. It was so damn good and so much fun. I'm really looking forward to the final season, but that'll be all. Peace.